Coffeehouse here in Portland. And we've since gone back a number of times because of the wonderful coffee and the treats that she bakes as part of the work there. So I thought it would be very enjoyable and interesting to introduce all of you to the owner proprietor of the Bison Coffeehouse, and that is our guest for this morning, Loretta Guzman. So thank you. So I thought we'd just have a discussion here, and then after the discussion, we're going to have a coffee tasting. As I said, she's brought 4 different brews that she serves in her cafe. We've got little sample cups, so we'll see what a discerning palate we Quakers have. So anyway, Loretta, thank you again for joining us today. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about yourself. Are you originally from Portland, or did you move to Portland? Tell us a little bit about the story.
My name is Loretta Guzman, and I'm a member of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes of.
Oh, they want it.
All right. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Loretta Guzman. I'm a member of the Shoshone-Bannock tribes of Fort Hall, Idaho. And yes, I was born here. I was born at Emmanuel Hospital. My mother was sent from the tribes here for school and relocation. And my father is, he was Hispanic. He passed away though in January of 2019. So
We got it?
okay.
Well, I'm
Again.
so you've just recently lost your father. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
My father was a big part of my life. He owned the building that I have, and he left it to me also. And so I really do take care of the building that he left me.
I see. What was in the building before?
My dad, he was a biker, and also he loved motorcycles, and next door he had his motorcycle shop. So he just had it for storage.
Right. When did you start the coffee house?
I opened Veterans Day 2014. So I worked on the building 2 years prior to me opening.
2 years.
That's how long it took me, because I worked and just took, and paid for it as I had money, and did a lot of the inside myself on what I could do, and saved money for what I could not do, and paid others to do it.
Now, tell me why a coffee house? Is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you get the idea recently?
No, I didn't even plan on coffee. Coffee was just something that I did to help pay my way through school. I was going to be a dental lab technician. A lot of us natives were really artistic, and so I thought, oh, I want to make teeth, and I don't want to be bothered with people. I don't really like people, is what I thought, But, God had other plans for me, and I ended up being diagnosed with stage 4B cancer, and I had to go back to my tribe and live with my sister and her family, and that's where I ended up going for chemo and radiation, and I got better, and I came back, and the economy had changed, and so I went ahead and went back to school and finished to be a dental lab technician. But during that time when I was away, the economy changed, and so a lot of labs were closing, and so they were taking other labs that did stay open. They were taking people with like 10 or 15 years experience over those of us who were just out of school. So I just continued to go to school, and I thought, well, I'll just go ahead and be a teacher. All my family, a lot of my sisters and my cousins are all in education. So I was like, oh, I'll just be a teacher. We'll have summers off and go to powwows, and, that's what I thought. But during that process of me going to school, one day I just flipped out. I was like, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. And I just asked my dad, I was like, Dad, can I have that building? And he asked me for what? And I said, so I can do my own coffee. I said, I've been working in coffee all these years, put myself through school, I can go ahead and put my money into the building. He said, well, the building needs a lot of work. And I was like, okay. I said, well, I've been paying my way through school. I can go ahead and, quit school and do this. So he said, okay. And that was a whole nother process. My dad was a biker, like I said, and next door he had his bike shop, and he had that one as his storage. And so it was like trying to get him to move the stuff out so I can get started was like me trying to pull his teeth, which was not happening. So anyway, it took several months. Every day my dad was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and next week I'll start on moving my stuff out. The next week came, it didn't happen. The next month happened, and I was like, come on, Dad. And I was cheering him on. He was like, okay. But he wouldn't do it. So I finally had to do it myself. And it was kind of tough for him to see his stuff moving out. Dad, where do you want this? And so moving his stuff out, and then me coming in and tearing it apart, he was just like, well, you're going to put those lights back up, right? Oh yeah, Dad, I will, But I had other plans, and I took out the drop ceilings and took it to the beams, and as he started seeing it come into fruition, he would come in and start smiling after a while. He got to where he started trusting me a little more, and he didn't work on the weekend, like on Sundays, but for a while there, every Sunday he was there watching everything we were doing, because I know he just didn't trust me at that point. But eventually he did, and finally he would smile and he would leave. And then we finally got it open. So that's how took me about 2 years, and I decided to open on Veterans Day, as I am First Nation of this land, and our people are some of the most enlisted into the service. And I wanted to honor them, as well as our past, our people that have always fought to be here, and they fought so that we could be here to this day. And so I honor them first of all, and then, those of us who are still here, so.
Now you've chosen, thank you for that you've chosen to very strongly emphasize your Native identity and your Native culture in the theme of the cafe. It could have been just a generic cafe, but you decided you have original art that you display in the cafe. And what have been some of the reactions as people come and discover your coffee house for the first time?
It's more positive than negative, I'd say. People are really they have a lot of questions. They've had a lot of questions. And for me, I decided to be the Bison Coffeehouse because our people were Bannock and Shoshone, and so the Bannocks were bison hunters and eaters. And so our people were the only Bannocks in the whole United States. And so the Bannock people followed wherever the bison were. They were not just like in Idaho. Our people were in like Wyoming, Washington, Idaho. They traveled where the bison were because that was their livelihood. And as a lot of people know now, that the government and those coming here tried to extinct the bison as well as us. And for me, it was like, they're still here and we're still here. So for me, I wanted to represent our past and our present, because they're here and we're here.
And what have been, you think, some of the particular challenges that you've faced, especially being a Native business person? Has it been especially difficult in Portland for you on that, or have there been some opportunities that were better? I'm just curious about that side of it.
I don't think a lot of people believed in me and believed in my business, and a lot of people didn't want to support me until year after year after year I was here. And I'm saying that for my own people, the Native people. It felt like a lot of people didn't really want to support me until, I was here every single day. I worked 7 days a week. I was there open to close. I was there after close, and just trying to make my business be successful. Once I started, people was like, oh, she's not going nowhere. Then I felt like people, wanted to support me. So that's really hard for me, especially when I am now still here, and the things that I do to support, my community, not just the Native people in my community, but the people within my neighborhood and those who come from other states and stuff to see me, because I try to accept all people and not just, make a difference in people, because, I feel like we all need to somehow come together to be able to understand each other, and to be able to communicate is one thing that has kept, I feel like, a lot of us apart from each other. And so I'd say it was kind of hard just like to see them not support me, but then all of a sudden want to support me. It was like one year, it was like everybody's all of a sudden wanting to support me. I was like, what's going on? That's how I felt.
Well, I'm glad they eventually came to be supportive. So, are you in touch with other Native business owners in the Portland area, or are there just not that many?
There's not that many. There's a few of them, but I do know them. One is like a tattoo shop, but, another one, he has a shoe store. So, I support the one, but I haven't went to the other one to go get tattoos, but, So, there isn't too many. There's some that work, I guess, like out of their home or something, and they do pop-ups and stuff like that.
How did you manage to get through COVID?
Easy. It was easy. It was I lost a lot of sleep, but that was probably the most part. I just read what they put out there as far as the rules for us, and just trying to figure it out. Me and my family, my mother and my sisters, a lot of reading and texting each other and trying to figure it out. Hey, I think you could stay open if you create a walk-up window. I think you can stay open if you do this, do that. And so the very next day I was out there with a shovel, me and a friend of mine, and we were out there digging a path and getting pavers and putting them in, and just trying to be creative, and as time went on and things were like, okay, this is going to last longer than 2 weeks. Finding, my friend, he speaks Spanish, he's Native and Hispanic, and so he seen some Hispanic guys. He was start speaking to him in Spanish, hey, my friend has a shop and she needs a pavers put in, concrete and all that. And they said, yeah. So he got them over there, and they did it in 4 hours, and it cost me $2,000 some later, but it was pretty expensive. I just worked every day, and I had a Lowe's credit card, so. My dad always told me, though, he's like, keep your, if you have a credit card, make sure you keep it paid, because you don't know when you might need it. And that was a time I needed it, and luckily I had a balance of 0, so I was able to go and purchase things. Some people were like, oh, you must be rich. I'm like, no, it's called a Lowe's credit card, So they were like, oh, some people I don't know what they thought. They think I had a lot of money. It's like, no, I work every day. I work hard, It's like trying to make your, for real, mine is a dream. My being the Bison Coffeehouse came from a dream that I had while I was sick. I dreamed of a really big bison, and I was in the city at my dad's house, and a bison kept trying to he was at my house, and he originally was outside my fence, and we have a big fence around our yard. And every time I would come down, he would try to get closer to me, and I would go back upstairs, and I'd come back down, and he would just be closer to me, but he was just looking at me from the side. And I would go back upstairs, and I would come back down, because I was like, what is he doing here? And what is a bison doing in the city? Dreams don't always make sense, but and then until he was right at the front door looking at me. And then I woke up, and I was laughing, and I was thinking, what is a bison doing in the city? And this is during the time I was going through treatment, because I had cancer. And so I had told my mother, about it, and she just looked at me, and she was like, oh, tell Grandpa when he calls you. I said, okay. So I told my stepfather about it, and he goes, oh, good, my girl. He said, I'm glad you told me. He said, that's your grandparents healing you. He says, your grandpa used to dance for the bisons. And I was like, yeah, I remember him. He had bison, on his land. And he goes, yeah, he goes, that's your grandparents healing you. He said, I've been praying that your grandparents in the spirit world will help you to get better. He goes, you'll get better. And so I end up going into remission. And and so I got better, and eventually I came back, and that's when, like while I was away, the economy changed. I came back, I finished school, but like I said, it changed. And so I just felt like I was going in circles, like, okay, what am I going to do now? Since I can't be a dental lab technician. So I was just trying to figure it out, and then that's when I finally was like, you know what, I want to open my own coffee house. I've been running these other people's business, making them successful. And I went to the owner and I told him, I said, I'm thinking about opening my own. And he says, do it. He said, you made my business successful. He goes, you'll be successful. So I said, okay. And so I worked on it, like I said, for 2 years, and I eventually got opened, and I chose Veterans Day for a reason, like I told you guys. So I have every step of the way of what I've done, I've tried to make things very, meaningful. Like they say, we leave footprints in life, and I try to make them meaningful. Of course I make mistakes along the way, but I just keep on trying.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. So now you feel like you've got pretty good support from Native community in the Portland area?
Yes.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I think the Native community supported me, but as far as the entities, the business ones, they didn't really support me. I think maybe they didn't want to support if I was going to be another failing business or something. That's how I feel. And that's my own personal opinions, and I've made it very clear to a lot of them, and I don't let just anybody put their name on my business because I'm the one who worked really hard.
So my last question, and then I'll open it up to friends that are probably curious about some other things. So what hopes and dreams do you have now for the future of your business?
I don't know. I just keep pushing forward and just trying to, there's still a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of obstacles in life right now, but, as I don't know, my windows were recently busted out because I chose to host Coffee with a Cop, but it was something that I made a decision to do, not just like when the sergeant came in and approached me and asked me if I would host it, because I've done it in the past, and I agreed to it, and he said, hopefully people won't come and just yell at us, and I said, don't worry, I said, we got you guys. But before I did it, he came and asked me probably about 3 weeks, a month prior, and so I prayed about it, and before I even posted it, I did my post short and simple and set my phone down, prayed about it, left it. Then I came back and I went ahead and, I felt okay. It's the time to do it. And so I went ahead and sent my post, and I started getting positive feedback. And then all of a sudden I got a lot of real negative backlash. I looked at some of those people. I was like, these people are not my customers. I don't know these people. And in the middle of the night, they came and busted all my windows out and sprayed paint through my whole shop.
So you've run into some politics even running a coffee shop. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Friends, questions?
In the Coley district. In the Coley district in Northeast Portland, it's like between 57th and Fremont and 60th and Prescott. There's a street that runs through there, and it's called Coley, Cully.
What do you sell besides coffee?
We do our own baking, and so we do our own baking. So pretty much our baking and our coffee is what we do.
Including gluten-free items, which is why my wife and I keep going back.
So not really a question, but I just wanted to share with you something that I like to share with other female business owners that I meet or have the pleasure of coming in contact with. is that it was only in 1988 that we were allowed to even own our own businesses and to be allowed to take on the struggles of owning our own business. And I just want to say that meeting another female business owner is inspiring, and to hear what you have gone through and decided to use your business for, a place to bring the community together, is really incredible. And I think that that should be celebrated for everyone to know about.
Thank you.
We have Dwight here.
You would have been a fabulous teacher. And I would love to have somebody with your spunk in my class. I just admire people like you that are just go-getters and don't let little things hold you back. One of the questions I have is a deeper question, kind of relates a bit to your sermon, Daniel. I have a lot of regret about what has happened in this nation to our Native American brothers and sisters. But the word guilt is one that I've wrestled with. And my mother told me, don't accept guilt if you're not guilty. And I don't feel guilty about it. I have a ton of regret. Loretta, what do you think we could do as a society to level some of that playing field for Native Americans? Is it education? Is it small grants to start businesses like yours?
I don't know. I mean,
That's a tough question.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just, I don't know. I just come from a family line of where our people, I see my family struggle. We struggled with our families just trying to make it and stuff like that. And just, I don't know, we really struggled. And it was just like, my dad was always the type, don't get up or don't give up, get up and keep on fighting, keep pushing forward. We grew up when it was really rough. My dad, was shot in our neighborhood because we weren't black, living in a black neighborhood, and so my dad was, we had to fight a lot growing up. And then when my parents split up and then we moved to the white side of town, we were one side of town, we were considered the little honkies. Over here, we were considered the little niggers. And so, but it was rough growing up. And so, you just, I don't know, I just don't let those things like stop me from being who I am, and just like me, when I decided to open my own business and I wanted to represent our people, of course it was scary. It's like, well, people accept me being a woman opening my own business. Will people accept me being a Native person opening my own business? Those were, my biggest fears right there. But I felt like it was something that I needed to do, and like I said, I had to represent our past because they made decisions so that we could be here to this day. And so I'm thankful for them. And I just don't I think communication is very important for us, and just like me right now, like me willing to host Coffee with a Cop, it's like we got people really trying to stop communication from people. They don't want us to come together. They don't want us to be able to communicate. They want to keep that division. And that was something that I wasn't willing to allow them to stop me, even though that happened to my business. And I got the call at 2-something in the morning, and I showed up to my shop, and literally my windows were still falling and breaking, and I was just standing there and I said, okay, God, I was like, that's where you have to stand out in your faith. I was like, okay, I trusted you, and this is how it's supposed to happen. And my friend was on the phone, and he says, you're still opening. He said, you're still doing this. He said, and we're coming to support you. And I was just standing there in shock. And he goes, do you hear me? I said, uh-huh. He goes, no, do you hear me? I said, uh-huh. He said, Retta. I said, huh? He said, you're still opening. I said, okay. Then I just looked at the officer. I said, I need to go home and change. He said, because he was like, why would somebody do this? And I was like, I know why. And I told him, I said, I'm hosting Coffee with a Cop this morning. I said, I posted it and my page went crazy last night. He was like, his face just was like, he said, "I'm so sorry." I said, I need to go home and change. I'm coming back. And literally, I had so many people just come and support me. People pulled over off the street, just like came in and just like grabbed rags and started helping, started vacuuming glass. My friends, my sisters, you know, everybody jumped out of bed and just came and helped me. And so I still hosted Coffee with a Cop that day. And, you know, and I felt like at the same time, I'm sorry, it's kind of hard, but I felt like God gave me a world of soldiers at the same time when all this happened, because at that moment you're like, did I make the right decision or not? I was just like, I have to believe I did, you know, because I prayed about it. It wasn't like something I just, you know, did and then like, oh, why did I do this? You know, it was like, okay, I got to keep trusting. But I had so many people come and support me. And so I know during this time it was the right decision. You know, it sucks that we got people, you know, they're really allowing us to go through some really, I feel like some really bad changes. Thank you. I feel like they're, you know, because I don't believe we're supposed to be destroying things and destroying each other. You know, we're supposed to be building each other up. And so, you know, I see the police going through a lot. I see my community going through a lot. I've listened to my community that over the years of this pandemic that they imposed on us and caused all this fear to people, and then people just come in and just like me listening to them every single day, you know, when, you know, it might not be the same people, but just different people, and some people really struggling with depression and stuff with all this, and me being like, hey, you know, I'm happy to see you, how are you doing? And people are like, you're happy to see me? I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I miss you guys, you know? And just being there for my community, and I felt like my community needed it because everybody's going through a lot of stuff, you know? And so me being willing to host it, you know, where people were really like, I wanted to come, they said, and then I seen all the backlash and I got scared, but they were like, you still did it, and I was still able to come. You know, and some people were scared, they didn't come for a while, and then they started showing back up, but you had other people who were just right there, you know. So I'm glad I did it, even though I still don't have windows. I already paid my deposits. I'm waiting on my windows, but there's, you know, a lot of other businesses with broken windows, and they're still waiting for their windows and stuff too. So hopefully I'll have mine by summertime, so I can, you know, we can let the light back in. But I've made it, I've done a lot of repairs and put new artwork up, and, you know, and like I said, I continue to welcome all people, and I just hope we can continue to communicate with each other, because there's big division, and that's one thing that drives us apart from each other, that I feel from my experiences.
You don't have windows? Is that what you're saying?
No, my front windows of my business are all busted out because Antifa came and busted out all my windows.
Well, I mean, but
I have
just kind of
boards.
open to the weather and stuff?
No, it's all boarded up.
Oh, it's all boarded up. Okay, but people just come anyway. That's
Yeah,
great.
I have artwork all over
okay.
the front. Yeah, so it's just not like plywood.
Okay, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Tell me about how you've been careful about sourcing your coffees.
I have coffee from native roasters. You know, as I'm a native business, I wanted to support other natives. And so I got a roaster out of New York, which me and them went back and forth in creating different blends for my shop of what I wanted. I also have another one out of the border of California, Arizona. So we went back and forth in creating blends for my coffee house too. So
you're accessing this stuff from all over the country.
yeah, well, all over the United States, you know, where they get their beans from other countries and stuff. Yeah, and then I have 2 local coffee roasters.
Right. So you've had to spend quite a bit of time
Yep.
Organizing where the coffee comes from.
Yep, and getting the blends just how I want them for my shop. So when people come in and they order like lattes and stuff, we're like, would you like a light roast, a medium, or dark on the espresso? People are like, I've never been asked that, So that's one thing we always get. And I'm like, I go like this to all of our grinders. I'm like, not many people have this many grinders either.
I'm really impressed with your vision of Coffee with a Cop. It's a reconciling vision to bring people together. And now, how long ago were the windows smashed? Was that just recently? Or?
It was October 5th.
October 5th. Wow. And so, I mean, part of my question would be, well, did local media cover that? Because that really is something that ought to be featured, as well as who was behind the smashing of the windows. If the negative response you got, in social media wasn't coming from local people, do we have kind of a concerted, organized endeavor to use violence to keep reconciliation from happening? And if so, we need to find a way to look into that.
Well, my case is still an open case. My stuff did go national. It went all the way to New York, Texas, Canada. It went all over the whole United States for what had happened to me. So yeah, it did go national. Like I said, I still have an open case right now. Yeah, so that's about it. There's video of everything that happened, but nothing's happened right now. And and a lot of people right now are really scared to stand. I had a lot of other small businesses say they supported me, but they were scared for me to, put out vocally that they supported me, because they were scared of the backlash too. But I've been through way worse in my life. So breaking of my windows is nothing, so it's like, for me, it's an act of terrorism was what they've done, and other people are like, yeah, I'm scared, this and that, people tell me, and I'm like, but you can't stay scared, you got to stand your ground, and I'm just like, I'm only one person. But
I wonder, could we work with Oregon congresspersons or Oregon senators to bring some national focus on this kind of an issue? If it's happening here, it's probably happening elsewhere.
it's happening everywhere.
Exactly. And so these are just some of my questions to think about, how to create change in society.
You seen we had 100 days easy with protest and rioting, So, I mean, you see what happens. They've had the police stand down, stand back, where, their hands have been tied. I mean, and for me, for real, I'm like, who craps in a bottle and throws it at anybody? And that's what they were doing to the police and stuff. I don't agree with stuff like that, I have never been like a big supporter of the police, but I mean, I'm a business owner. I pay my taxes. If I call them, I need them, instead of me taking matters into my own hands, and then I'm the one who ends up in jail and prison. But, right now, it's a really good time to be a drug addict. It's a really good time to be a criminal because you can get away with it, That's just my personal opinions, and from what I see and from what I've experienced. I'm dealing with a lot with impassioned, people agreeing on that Measure 110. I pay the price every single week, I'm battling with these people who are drug addicts, smoking fentanyl in front of my shop. I got little grandkids. I don't need my little grandkids touching anything and then them dying. I got, drug addicts threatening to come back and shoot me because I'm like, I'm going to ask you to leave my property. Why should I have to be threatened to be shot and killed? And that's what I went to the mayor's office and I told him, why do I have to be shot or dead before you guys can do anything? But this is the choices that that we make as a whole, and I know I did not agree to that. I voted against it, but yet I'm the one paying the price, and that's something my father had taught me. He says, you have to pay attention. He said, because all these laws are going to affect you. He says, before you vote on something, make sure you understand it. you know, and I was like never like a political person or anything like that, but I do have to stand for what is right.
Thank you.
No, my sister lives in Montana. She works at the university there. My other sister works for PPS here for Indian education. I have my daughter who works for me. I have my niece who works for me, my nephew. So I have a few family members that work for me. But it's been really hard. People don't want to work right now. We got a lot of people who don't want to work. When you can get free stuff, why not get free stuff? Why work?
Rob?
Cully is kind of off the beaten path for a lot of us, but it makes us want to go seek it out. But do you have an online presence that sells your coffees beyond there, or are you strictly in the shop?
Yeah, just in the shop. I want people to come and see me. You know, I won't do those Uber Eats or none of that kind of stuff. I feel like it's destroying our economy. And so I refuse to do those type of things. I tell them, no, I want to see people. They got to come and smile at us.
Would anybody care if you had coffee with a cup?
Can you say that again?
Why would anyone care if you had coffee with a cop?
Because right now they're really trying to break up everything, the society, the way things are. We got a big presence of Antifa who are really against the police presence, you know. And I mean, I see it because I've been open every single day. I have other people I know that are business owners, you know. So there's a lot going on in our city, but you know, not everybody knows of all the stuff that is going on, you know. And I never want to be in the light of something like this, you know. For me, I just wanted to represent our past and our present, you know, like we're still here and we're business owners. We're more than, you know, than just, you know, a lot of people looked at our Native people as drunks and stuff like that. And it's like, no, we're not, you know. But that was just something that was fed to our people to break us. You know, but we're still here, and so that was what I wanted to do, and then, but it ended up being more than that, you know. Sometimes you have to stand up, you know. Like I said, it was easy for me because I've been through way more in my life than, you know, like I said, broken windows.
So as I sat here listening to you and feeling your energy, and I guess I just want to acknowledge and say thank you for being a bridge builder. I think every time we find bridge builders, we're all better off for it. And I'm going to use the word courage, although it might have been a combination of courage and spunk, to be faithful to what you felt called to do. You're witnessing that for all of us, and I think we benefit from that. And so I just want to say thank you for that as well. And there may not be an answer today, but I sure feel the sense of us all meeting today. And what does that mean going forward, since perhaps joint events or something that focuses on bringing light, because that's important to our world, but also bringing communities together that would not necessarily initially see themselves together. Because my experience, I think most of us in this room, our experience is when you're with another, you're actually yourself. Once you get to start chatting, there isn't another, you know. And how do we work against whatever those, I'm using forces in quotes, are consequences that we should separate? Because I do think that is a message that we're hearing over and over again, is this concept of division. And I just don't believe that's who we are, the heart of who we are as people. So thank you for being.
Put it into the YouTube.
For me, taking a stance in the city, I have two little friends, you know, and they are friends. you know, and I don't want them to be shot at the, you know, that kind of thing. And I don't want them to be told that so somewhere we have to, you know, stand up and try to make a difference and be able to come together. Like I said, you don't have to, but we can come together and listen and maybe. Okay, this is why she did it, you know, why she did the cop instead of like, oh, we're against the police have no right to be here and they have no presence and, you know, and trying to stop me from doing what I'm doing. Nobody ever came and asked me any, you know, all I got was, you know, backlash, busting the windows, scraping through my whole entire shop, destroying my artworks. You know, I have a huge bison in my shop, a little one, and it was great, you know, but like I said, you know, I had people who jumped straight out of bed and came to help me and at that time, and I was just like, and literally, I felt when I was standing in front of the shop, and my family was like, you're open, you're still. Felt my whole body go numb at that point. I felt something just like come over my whole body, just from the top of my head all the way down. And I said, okay. And I went and got ready and I did it. And I've been open every single day, you know, so we can stay scared. We can, you know, go along with whatever people try to force upon us, or we can stand. And I choose to stand. And like you know, and I put in a post, I said, I will die trying to make a difference. And I mean, every bit of that, because I have 2 little grandsons, you know, and to me, they matter. So just like, I look at those, you know, before us, they made sacrifices and stuff. And some of them, you know, died in the process of making sacrifices so that, you know, I could be here to this day, so that the bison can be here, you know. So, you know, I mean, I don't want to die in the process, but, you know, I will stand. And if it might happen, you never know. But I'm here today and I can only try to make a difference in every single day that I do, you know, and like, you know, right now we're in the struggle with our, you know, my little grandkids, you know, me and my daughter trying to run the shop, people not wanting to work, people, you know, only wanting to work and get 2 paychecks and be done, you know, and it sucks and it's hard, you know, but we just keep pushing through it. And some days, I don't know if you guys ever been there, but some days I have a little baby on my back, you know, because we're just like, we're in the struggle.
Thank you, Loretta. Okay, so here's the last question. On a somewhat lighter note. So are you the final arbiter of the coffee blends?
Some of them, I went back and forth with, like I said, with my roasters, but 2 of them are local coffee roasters. And so I just, I want to, you know, we're the coffee capital of the world. You know, Portland, we have some of the best coffee in the whole world. I mean, I travel to different places, to New York, Chicago, different places to go to Coffee Fest and stuff like that. And I go to all these other coffee places when
There's
I go.
coffee fests?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I go all over, and whenever I'm in other states and stuff and I travel, I always try coffee everywhere I go. And nobody has as good a coffee as us.
How about that? Well, on that note, we have Loretta has bought 4 different roasts. Tell us what the 4 are.
One of them is our Bannock blend, which is it's a dark roast, and that's it's really good. And then the other one is our Shoshone, which is more of a medium roast. And so those represent me and our people, who we are. We're Shoshone and Bannock. We're called the show bands. We're 2 tribes that made one, but I kept us separate. So we got the dark and we got the light, where the Bannocks are the bison hunters. They're big. They're, you know, most of them were like over 6 foot. They hunted the bison, and then the Shoshones were more smaller and lighter, and were salmon eaters. And then the other 2 is one is Kova, our local coffee roaster, and another one is Capitola, which is he's a small roast, or a small coffee business owner, and he roasts his own. And I used to go to his shop on my days off, and now I don't have days off, but before when I had days off, I'd go over and support him. And I just like felt like I needed to support somebody else who was small and local. Cova's pretty well known and they're pretty big, but he's just a small coffee roaster, so I
Great.
started carrying him too.
Great. Well, friends, let's test our palates. But before we break, first of all, let's say thank you to Loretta for being with us today. And come and greet our guests, and let's move out towards the hallway, and then we have little sample cups for everybody, so you can try these and see what you think. Thank you again, Loretta. Appreciate it.
Thank you.